Hello. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Monday, and you know what time that means. It's time for a little coffee with Colin. So it's February 1st, and it has been an amazing and incredible beginning to the week. I've got a lot of great things in store for you guys because tonight I have a dating and relationship expert, and she just so happens to be the sister of the director of the movie that is coming out tomorrow that I am starring in with Heidi Jo Henningmeyer and a bunch of other amazing actors. This movie is called 100 Days to Live, and it comes out tomorrow. This is a movie that I've been working on for the past 2 years, and it is going to be super exciting that this thing is going to be coming out because it's the first time that I got to work in Chicago with all my Chicago friends, and this is definitely what it means to be, an actor, because this was a grassroots effort, and this thing is coming out tomorrow, and we could definitely use your support. Would absolutely love you guys to check this movie out. We've been getting great reviews, and that's been one of the big things that's been happening this week. The second thing is Agile Artist Book Club starts today. So if you haven't jumped in yet, by all means, go to agileartist.com. So we're going to be doing 6 weeks of awesome Q&As, and we've got an app that you download, and it's all about sparking that thought-provoking conversation, which we are about to have with my tonight's guest. So without further ado, I know a lot of you have been anxious to watch this episode because I think this episode is going to make me blush quite a bit. I did a Facebook Live earlier and got some very interesting questions from my audience. And this guest of mine is going to probably enlighten me on the do's and don'ts of dating. And as someone who is single, I could definitely use some advice in the relationship arena. So I would just like to give you a little background about Miss Bela Gandhi. Miss Bela Gandhi, as I mentioned, she's the sister of Ravind Gandhi. Man, this family is just like incredible. I mean, I met Mr. and Mrs. Gandhi. Well done, Mr. and Mrs. Gandhi. So Bela is a dating and relationship expert. She's the founder of Smart Dating Academy and a weekly media correspondent. She is a relationship expert and has been featured on most national, local, and media outlets, and I can see why. She discovered her love for matchmaking when she was actually working for the same nonstick coating pan company that Ravind works for, and which Ravind and Bela's dad started. And she, while she was working there, she recognized that her dream and her passion was matchmaking and setting people up. And I'm excited to be talking to her, not just about the matchmaking and the relationships and how to create more spice and excitement in relationships. But I want to talk to her also about, how difficult was it for her to leave a steady corporate job to pursue her dream and her passion of doing what she knew that she truly wanted to do in her life. So I'm excited to talk to her about that. The Smart Dating Academy is what she founded, and it has quickly become one of the nation's top dating coaching firms. And this is cool. So it's described as the Harvard Business School of dating. So she has a systematic approach to dating, which dating apps to use, how to use them. And then once you meet the person that, the love of your life, how to keep the romance going. So without further ado, because I know a lot of us want to hear the insights of the fairy godmother of love, let's bring her out. Miss Bela Gandhi, please put your hands together. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Bela Gandhi. How are you, Bela?
Hi, it's so good to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you. So do tell us, man. I've got a ton of questions from our audience here. But first of all, I just want to touch on real quick, as obviously your brother's film, 100 Days to Live, is coming out tomorrow.
Hey, you guys, I'll watch it tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. So like, what did your mom and dad, like, what kind of food did they like? Did they put something in your water growing up? You both are just super successful and just incredible human beings. Like, do tell, how have you guys become so successful in your careers and life?
I mean, I'm blushing clearly. So I know one of your goals was to get me to do that. So we're already into like minute 8, and here we are. As you well know, you've met my parents. My parents are immigrants, and they came over with 2 suitcases. And my dad always wanted to start his own business. And by the time I was old enough, I have a degree in finance, and I worked in M&A for a while. And I knew that was not what I was cut out to do. And Raveen was also an accountant. He was a CPA, and we both migrated into the family business. And I think we just learned all of the things it takes to start a business and to run a business. It seems really glamorous sometimes to be like, oh, I started a business and it's great. But as you well know, when you start a business, you're the person licking the stamp, putting it on the envelope, putting it in the mailbox, right? You're doing kind of everything from A to Z. And I think that we really understood, when you own a business, you're the person that turns the lights on in the morning and the lights out. You're the last one there to leave. So I think that was definitely it was an amazing experience to have parents that were like that.
Yeah, well, they set a great example, obviously, and it's amazing that you came from the corporate world, and then at some point you were like, you know what, I think this is just, I'm going to take that leap and jump into what it is that I know in my heart is what is my true calling. What was that like to be able to have to make that decision? And was it difficult for you to be able to have to explain that to your parents, to your family, to your coworkers, that you were like, I'm leaving this to go start a dating company? Were they like, what are you talking about?
I mean, literally, they're like, what are you smoking? Like, what is going on over there? But everybody knew that I did this thing. Like, from the time I was in college, I set up my college roommate with a guy, and they were like, whatever. They had boyfriends, girlfriends. I'm like, you two, if you go out on one date, I promise you will get married. And they're both like, I mean, and we're like 19 and 20 years old. Like, who says that? Why would I even say that? But they were my first couple, and they did get married. And then there was another. And I had bad dating patterns, right? Until I kind of put my own little system together, which led me to Andy, my husband, who's amazing and not a narcissist and not emotionally avoidant, and all the things that I used to really gravitate towards. And maybe that resonates with a lot of you out there. So by the time we sold our company, we were all partners, my parents, my brother, and me, and we sold it to a Dutch multinational, and they all retired. I stayed on for 5 years, GMing the business until 2006. Great job, to your point. But I knew that there was this thing inside of me that it's like, and it was really hard. Colin, you asked a great question to do it. I was scared to death. I was like, what if I fail? Like, what if this thing doesn't work? What are my parents? What is my brother going to think? Like, there were so many concrete blocks that I put on myself. But, in 2009, I actually, maybe the story will resonate with you guys. I imagine I read, my husband is a nerdy business guy. So we had Harvard Business Review laying around, and there was a story, an article about the effects of failure versus regret on human beings. And so I read this article, like it was karma that it was put in front of me, and I shut the book, and I imagined myself as a 95-year-old woman with grandkids sitting. I had a rocking chair, I had Country Time lemonade, pouring it for the grandkids, and I could tell them one of 2 stories. And I was like, okay, the story about failure. Okay, what would that look like? You guys, I started this dating company when I was in my 30s. It was a total debacle. It sucked. It blew up massively, but I'm glad I did it. And here's what I learned from it. So do that or don't do what I did. But then I thought about the regret story, and that was much more painful story. That was, you guys, don't do what I did. I thought I wanted to do something, but because I was afraid of rejection and failure, I just sat on it for 60 years. Don't do what I did. And I was like, well, that story sucks. I don't want that story. Failure, I'll take that all day long. The next day, I put my plan together and started it 5 months later.
Wow. So like Jerry Maguire, you put your manifesto together, put it together, and then you're like, all right.
Who's coming with me?
Who's coming with me? Well, obviously,
Nobody.
a lot of people now, because you have been doing this for quite a while, which obviously means you've been successful with it. So tell us a little bit about the Smart Dating Academy.
Yeah, so when I started doing this, I actually branded myself as Chicago's matchmaker because I thought, well, I know how to matchmake people. And I know it's like pot, lid, meet each other, sail off to happiness. But what I started to realize is that matchmaking, everybody was willing to pay good money to outsource their dating life. Like, just set up a good dinner for me and let me know where to be, because I don't want to deal with the app. So
like, what kind of money are we talking about when you say good money?
Matchmakers can command, good matchmakers, like the kinds you see in the airline magazines, when you're $50, $100, $150,000 with no guarantees. Right now, I was not commanding anywhere near that much as a newbie matchmaker, but and I knew ultimately what happened is that was, from my vantage point, it was enabling people to do the same thing over and over again. Because I started matchmaking thinking, okay, got my eye on the prize, that's what I want to do. But then I started coaching my clients, and I'm like, if I'm going to get you, matchmakers will get you maybe a date a month for that money, and there's no guarantees. And so I said, if I'm going to get you a date a month, what are you doing for the other 30 days? There's 60 lunches and dinners over 30 days. I'm getting you one out of 60. They're like, did you have to put it in such quantitative terms? And so I would help people get online. I'm like, your profile, these pictures don't even look like you. These are like 10 years old. Like, you need new pictures. And their profiles were like, do not contact me if you want to hook up. I'm like, this sounds like you've had a ton of bad experiences in your life. We got to rewrite this. So within 6 months, I stopped matchmaking altogether and started coaching people to start choosing the right people and then navigating dating apps and sites in the right way. Because as technology, even in the last decade since I've been doing this, technology has put its tentacles into our lives more and more and more. Now enter COVID and a pandemic. It's the only game in town.
Yeah. Yeah, what I really like about what you're doing is that it's not just about, you're not just sharing knowledge about which apps to use and what age group they're for. What you do is, from the brief conversation we had before here, was that you actually you help people get in touch with the mindset of who they need to be and who are they being and what kind of men or women are they attracting into their lives. So I guess my first question for you tonight is, with regards to the dating thing, is that, do you think we subconsciously attract a certain type of person? And if we do, how do we become aware of what that is, and how do we break that pattern?
So the answer to that question is yes. And I would put a little bit of a nuance on it. I think what we do, we look at things in a passive way. I'm attracting bad people. I'm attracting jerks. I'm attracting crazy women. But at the end of the day, when you spin that around, you're accepting these people into your dating life, right? And so that's kind of the first step to going, maybe the common denominator in this is me. And what is going on? So the first step at Smart Dating Academy in our process, we have people fill out a dossier of questionnaires that I've come up with over the last decade, which really help people. It helps people to write out their stories about, like, what were your parents like growing up? What were they like with each other? What were they like with you? Delineate all of your relationships. What attracted you to this person? What worked? What didn't work? And through that constellation of data points with each client, we're able to sort of put the needle right in at the right place and figure out why you're doing what you're doing, why you're accepting this. A lot of stuff comes down to, it's like 3 key things, right? It's attachment stuff from when we were kids, stuff we don't have control. You can't pick your parents. But then there's also messaging in Hollywood, right? We're acculturated to think we want the fairy tale ending, instant chemistry, instant sparks, right? So that's Hollywood is the second point in that. And then evolution, right? We're drawn to certain traits as men and women. So between those 3 points, there's this perfect storm of confusion, because 50% of marriages end in divorce. The first ones, 67% of second marriages end in divorce, and 74% of third marriages. So stop the madness. Stop the madness.
Yeah, and people are always asking me, like, why are you single? I'm like, well, have you seen the statistics? I know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But now you've got a friend, so you're not going to fall into those statistics.
Yes, exactly. And so obviously there is a difference between initial chemistry and then the compatibility. Because what I have found is I will have initial chemistry with someone, and then I'll before you know it, it's like 3 months down the road, and you've physically connected with this person, and you've started to do a lot of things together, and then you start to the beginning, everyone's on their best behavior, and then after a while you start to really see who each other is, and then what becomes uncovered is what each other's values are. And I think it's so important to really start to hone in on what each other's values are from early on in the relationship. So one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, is there like a certain series of questions that you think couples should be asking at the very beginning to avoid like 3, 4, 5, 6 months down the road being like, oh, I didn't even realize this is who you are? And it's just then it gets messy.
Right. It's like, wait, I was dating your representative for the first time.
Right?
Who's this?
Yeah.
Where's your rep? I liked your rep better. So I think that there's so much to that. I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is chemistry and spark is certainly important, but lust is nature's way of tricking you into attachment, right? So you want to be really judicious about that. And sometimes chemistry, especially for women, can come later in the game, right? And when you have instantaneous chemistry with someone, it can just be reminders of a bad ex from the past, right? And that's how you suddenly are flooded with all of those feelings, the dopamine, the estrogen, the serotonin, all of those make you crazy feelings. So there's a lot to it. So we tell in our process, I mean, you can imagine we've got graphs of what good trajectories look like in a dating process and what your dating funnel should look like. So while people want to just jump right in after 3 good dates, we're like, slow your roll. I'm going to pull your reins in right now. Yeah. And typically we're not having people get exclusive with people until 15, 20 dates, so that was that the representative, or is this really you? Otherwise, you jump in, all of a sudden it's all hot and heavy. But at 3 to 4 months, that's when attachment stuff kicks in, and you start to see people wanting to bolt. You start to see people becoming really anxious. So there's a lot to the science of romance and attachment and why we have our clients do certain things. And they're like, wait a second, but you're telling me I can't sleep with someone for 3 months? I'm like, you can, if you want to end up in the same chowder you've been in for the last 10 years. Slow it down at this point. And
do you coach both men and women?
Yeah, we do.
And so is the advice pretty similar for each? Because I would imagine, I mean, obviously, as men, we were aggressive. We're the aggressor. We want to just go there, get it as quick as we can. And people have been asking about, well, what about the 3-date rule? Does it exist? Or is it the 3-month rule? What would you say is, I mean, I think you touched on it, but what would you say is a average amount of time before you would say, okay, you know what, now it's okay?
Typically, if anyone in our practice is sooner than 3 months, and we're doing like a date a week and then maybe 2 dates a week while you're dating other people, right? And not necessarily sleeping with all of these people. So you keep your mind objective, right? And so you don't want to jump in too fast for all those reasons. And yeah, we do. It's a great question that you asked, but do you coach men differently? Like, hey, dude, 3 dates, let's game on. No, it's you may not emit as much oxytocin, which is the attachment hormone that women emit during orgasm, right? So it's easier for guys to have more casual sex than it is for women. I'm an ardent feminist. And so I always tell women, know your power and know what's going to get you attached to someone too quickly, and hold off on that. And even for guys, it's like, look, if you jump in with someone on the 3rd date, a lot of guys, good guys, are just like, it feels disingenuous to still be dating 3 or 4 other women at the same time. So this is a lot of the swirls that we deal with, but our practice is 90% the same, whether you're male, female, hetero, looking for same sex, doesn't matter what your religion is. Love is love, you guys. That is what's so exciting about this.
And for people out there who don't have 10, 20, 50, $100,000 to maybe, throw at matchmakers, what do you tell most of us who are just like, people who are just getting by and just want to find love?
Yeah, look, there's so much information out there. If you seriously want to learn this, you can buy the books if you're a DIYer and cobble it together yourself. There's a ton of great information out there. I mean, we do live Instagram shows every Thursday at 7 p.m. Central, tackling the topics du jour, right? What's hot? What's up in the dating world? We're in the middle of peak dating season right now, when app numbers are bananas, right? It's like when all the fish are at sea. It's between December 26th and February 14th. So we're still in the middle of peak. So we're help people to navigate these things for free. And we're a fraction of the matchmakers. We don't have anything that's $50,000. So that I can promise you.
Okay. And so what apps would you recommend right now for dating, and what are best practices for these apps?
I wish I could tell you that there's one good answer. Like everybody, if I get asked the most common question every day, what is the best app for me to be on, Bella? Just tell me. It's like, where are all the good people hiding? Like I see all the people, but they're not my people. Where are my people? I'm like, you got to look at online dating, you guys, as the world's largest cocktail party. Okay. Now picture the biggest building you've got in Chicago. We've got a building called Navy Pier, right? And it's enormous. And there's ballrooms, there's little tiny rooms. Imagine that's online dating, and all the single people are in that building, but they go from room to room because one room has appetizers, the other room's like the whiskey room. So people are constantly moving around these rooms. So they're not all in one room. There's no VIP room where all the people, where there's velvet ropes outside. It's a big space, but it's a party you want to be at. So being on an app or a site, don't do any more than 2 at the same time. That would be my best piece of advice for you. 1, we deep dive into 1 with our clients. And then it depends on what city you live in, what age range you're looking for, who are you looking for, right? And so we help each individual person get on a site or an app that's best for them, because there's over 2,500 registered sites and apps out there.
Wow. And so, I don't use the dating apps. I think that was some, it's like, I think it is like younger generation kind of stuff. Maybe I'm just too old, whatever. But I would imagine it's got to be difficult if you go on there to distinguish between the people that are serious about finding love and those who are just trying to hook up. And so before we got on here, I was on Instagram Live, and people were describing terms for, doing it. And one of the terms that came up was smashing. Have you heard of this as the new term for knocking boots, for doing the nasty, for like that one was new to me. I sound like I'm 70 years old right now. I knew I was going to get red and embarrassed about this conversation, but
right.
Yeah.
You smashed? Like what?
This is new to me.
Sounds a little violent. Do you want to smash?
How? So how do you determine who's looking for love and who's looking to smash?
Well, I'll tell you this. In the dating process, if you guys remember one thing from this conversation, remember, there's no substitute for time in dating. Okay. Let that one marinate in that one for a while. You can't make these decisions right away, right? If someone sends you, a picture of his yin yang, I think you said today on your Instagram Live, right? Okay. Yeah. People show us who they are. It's up to us to believe them. So if you're getting pictures of the junk, delete, block. That dude's put it out there. That's what he's looking for. But ultimately, I think when people want to get too fast and too furious, that's always a red flag to me. I like people to take a 4-step process to date. First, if you're on the apps, look, I should say 5. Read someone's profile to make sure they don't sound crazy. Step 1. If they pass the crazy litmus test, message back and forth. Now, if that goes well, Take it to the phone. You guys, you have to talk on the phone 10 to 15 minutes. It's like job search. Nobody's going to hire you without HR at least getting you on the phone to make sure that you sound okay, right? So you do the 10 to 15 minutes. Hey, how you doing? Do you have a good day? Make sure they sound good. Then you're going to do the video date. You're going to do it. Guys, I'm telling you, a year ago, there was no video in any site or any app, even though people like me had been asking for it forever. Because if not, you've got 6 photos, like basically a tweet on a Tinder profile. Like, what can you really tell? But video makes things 3-dimensional, right? So once the pandemic hit, everything froze. Then when people started going, God, I'm kind of lonely, 48% of American adults are single. They're like, well, might as well get on the apps. So then the Match and Bumble and Tinder, everybody's like, wow, FaceTime and Zoom and Skype are eating our lunch. Suddenly, everybody got video in there. I have every one of our clients, and we have a lot of clients, they do 30-minute video dates. You can do coffee with Colin, 30 minutes. Wine, 30 minutes. Happy hour. Say, how would you like to meet for a drink from 5 to 5:30? Put constraints on it so you are not stuck on a painful date. There, again, crazy people cannot keep crazy in the closet for more than 10 minutes. Okay. So if the person is cray, it's going to pop right out of the closet on that video chat.
That's good advice. I like that. So I want to go to some of the questions that some of my audience has.
Awesome.
The first one is, let's see, Rosalinda Haida. Hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right. She's asking, you can't change anyone, but people do. Is it possible to change each other in the relationship to make it work? So obviously, it's you can't necessarily change someone, but how do you come together to find common ground? So there's that. I think animosity in a relationship and resentment is a relationship killer. And I think if you aren't able to speak your truth in a relationship where you feel like even if the person is not going to like what you have to say, that makes people retreat and not communicate. And then obviously then there's the walls between the two of you. So if there's something that you feel is bothering you about the other person, it's not about changing someone, but how do you come to that common ground so that you both are, I guess, maybe compromising and meeting in the middle?
Yeah, I think that it's a great question. And you can't change anybody. A healthy relationship is comprised of 2 people that want to be the better partner for the other person, right? And so when you come from a place of love and you say, okay, I want to be a really good partner to you, right? So when you tell me, for example, Bella, I don't like, when you are working 12 hours a day, I really don't, I wish we could spend more time together. Now I could say, hey, I'm really busy. Like, you're just gonna have to learn to deal with this because this is just how my job is. Or I could say, you know what? You're right. What would make you happy? Do you want to have like movie night tonight for 2 hours? And you have to turn towards each other instead of against each other.
Yeah, that's a tough one. And I think those are the kinds of value systems that I think you need to determine early on in the relationship. Otherwise, it's simply just not going to work. I read, I'm sure you've heard of Malcolm Gladwell. So in his book Outliers, he describes there's a psychologist who's able to determine within 5 minutes of talking to someone if a couple is going to last, beyond, a few months. And it comes down to their shared values and do they enjoy doing similar things? Because it's not necessarily about liking each other, but if you like similar things or have similar values, then you're going to be more likely to want to walk hand in hand down the road of, in your relationship rather than constantly going off and doing different things. Now, I think it's important to have different interests and different likes in a relationship. But I think the worst thing you can do is try to change someone. And I know I'm just reading Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Dr. John Gray talks about how instead of trying to change someone, it's important to accept their differences and who they are, but to be able to talk about these differences and to just tell each other what you need. And I think where I have gotten frustrated in relationships is where I feel like the woman has just expected me to know something or do something. And I mean, as guys, we're just kind of cavemen sometimes. Sometimes we just need to be told, honey, I just need a hug. Or like, I don't need you to answer this or fix it. Because as men, we try to fix things. That's how we experience our self-worth. And sometimes we just need to be told what to do. And I think things would be much better. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think so. And here's the complicating factor to that. You're right. And I think sometimes with women, when we're emotional about something or hurt or angry, we don't even know in that moment like what we need. So your best bet as a guy is always to be on her team at that point and just listen and agree with her. Yeah, absolutely. Your boss, I know that must have been hard. It's not the time to say, sometimes your tone can be a little bitchy. Do you think that maybe you emailed your boss with that same tone? Not good timing to do that.
Right.
Right.
Got it.
So
okay.
I know we all want to go into fix it mode. I can be that person too, but now you can just ask someone, do you and be proactive about it. If you want to know, instead of waiting for her to tell you, just say, hey, is this a moment where you want to vent? Because I'm happy to just listen. Or are you looking for advice? And if you ask the question from a place of love, she will tell you at that moment, like, oh my God, thank you. Actually, here's what happened today. And that just means she wants you to listen. Very infrequently does anybody on earth want advice, right? We just want to be heard. We want to be seen.
Yeah. I think that's very good. Very good insight. I definitely believe that. What do you feel about Nadine Armstrong wants to know about astrology and signs, and does that play a part in dating? Do you believe in astrology and matchmaking with the stars and the zodiac signs?
I come from a culture where if you guys watched Indian Matchmaker on Netflix, there is some heavy duty astrology stuff in there. My parents are very progressive and liberal, so we never grew up with that. I don't know that I don't prescribe it with our clients. I think with our system, it's kind of, okay, who is a partner that's going to make you happy? And now let's go out and find them. So we don't prescribe zodiac, but I will tell you, not knowing good zodiac pairings, just having a system to do this. I'm a Pisces, and the most compatible match for a Pisces female is a Virgo male. What is my husband, Andy? A Virgo male. Of course, we found this out like 5 years after being married. We're like, I guess we should stay together. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've dated a few Scorpios and was always wondering why that didn't work out. And then I started looking into it. I was like, yeah, for whatever reason, I don't know. I mean, I think there's some validity to all of it. But Katie McDonald wants to know, this is a good one. Why is it so hard to get guys to commit? What do you think?
Maybe because you have a dating pattern of accepting men that are emotionally avoidant and are unable to commit. So it's definitely, you got to start picking from the right pot ultimately. And in addition to that, if your belief system about men is men do not commit, right? And that sort of architects the way that you see the world, then the ego bias in your brain is going to have you choose for people that don't want to commit. So there's so much to really diagnosing yourself. And this is a lot of what we help our clients to do. Like, what do you really believe about relationships? Like, if you guys, journal out tonight, what are my beliefs about dating? What are my beliefs about relationships? You'll be pretty astounded if you put pen to paper what you'll start to see when you're like, wow, I believe this. And then a lot of people go, well, hell no wonder I haven't been meeting the right people, right? Like I believe I'm not, I mean, I hear this all day. I'm too heavy. I'm too ugly. My parents told me this when I was young. My sister was the pretty one. I'm not tall enough as a guy.
Yep.
And when we come from those constructs, you start out on the wrong foot.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of what I talk about is it's essentially, like you were saying, not only just being aware of what your dating habits are, but, and I'm sure you talked about this with your clients, but just being aware of who you are, what your perception of your own self-identity is. And we teach people how to treat ourselves.
Yeah,
and I think
right.
I've met some women who I can tell, or they've even actually communicated to me that they'll say, well, you know, he's not my dream guy, but I don't know if I'll ever find that dream guy. And so I'm just going to kind of stay with it, like almost settling kind of thing. And I mean, I think that's a tough one because I mean, I don't know. It's hard to leave something that you feel maybe is safe and comfortable, but then is that worth it to not try to go for what you know in your heart and your soul is something that would be that more inspiring, magical relationship that I think we all are looking for. Do people ask you about that?
Yeah, all the time, you know, and I tell people never, ever, 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 ever settle, right? That is something you never want to do, right? You don't want to settle for bad behavior. You don't want to settle for crumbs. You don't want to settle for anybody that makes you feel like heck. You don't want to settle for someone that makes you feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time, right?
Yeah.
Someone, you don't want to settle for someone who can't communicate, someone who doesn't come from a place of love, right? You could be more open, and this is where we will guide our clients. Like, okay, if you really think she's got to be, 25 to 32 and you're 45, maybe we can broaden that age band somewhat. Like, why are we looking at that age range? So we help people to really kind of figure out what's really important to them. And then we can cast our net out wider to start looking for the right people. That's not settling. That's saying, okay, who do I really want ultimately? And can I open up some parameters to try to find a person that's going to make me happy versus staying with someone, to your point, Colin, who is treating me badly or is inconsistent or unreliable or flaky or mean, right? That stuff you got to throw to the curb, guys.
Yeah, I think you really do have to set a standard for yourself, because if you're wasting your time with someone who is not your dream person, then you are not leaving the door open for that person to walk into your life. So I agree with you, Bella. No settling.
No settling.
What do you do?
No settling.
What do you do if you've been in a relationship for almost 7 years and a man is not wanting to take it to the next level? Is it time to move on?
It was time to move on 6.5 years ago, right? I say that with love and the utmost respect. Sometimes you have to let go for what you want, right? And if a committed, exclusive relationship or marriage is what you want, that is what you deserve, right? Don't whittle away the years expecting someone to change. It's just not going to happen. If somebody isn't going to be on the same page as you, and this circles back to the things that you clarify while you were dating someone slowly in the beginning to make sure that to the things Colin is saying, that your values are aligned. Your long-term game is aligned with this person. If this person says, I'm not looking for anything serious on their profiles, believe them. If this person says, I'm not sure about marriage, believe that, ladies. They will tell you. Most men tell the truth. Women, sometimes we're like, well, you don't know me yet. You'll want to marry me, right? But they tell the truth. But we're not hearing what they're saying. I'm like, if you go back to his profile, it says not looking for a long-term relationship. It's like, oh, I didn't see that.
Well, how do you determine that if that's not like explicitly written on their profile, how can you tell if a guy is just looking to hook up or if he's looking for love?
If he's looking to hook up and you don't hook up with him, then guess what? If he sticks around, he probably thinks you're cool enough to wait, right? And correct me, I work with a lot of guys. Ladies, if a man wants to be with you, he will move mountains to be with you.
I agree. And
if he's pressuring you to do something you don't want to do or move it too fast, that is a clear sign that's probably someone who's looking for a smash.
Yeah.
You got something to say around that? You're cracking up.
Chloe wants to know, how do you get someone out of the friend zone?
How do you get someone out of the friend zone?
Yes. Is that possible?
So I would want a little bit more information about that question. I don't know, Chloe, if you've been friend zoned or you want to become attracted to a guy that you've put in the friend zone. So I
would imagine, how do you get someone
out of the friend zone? Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let's say there's a guy that she works with and she's attracted to him. How does she let him know or generate or let him know that there's maybe, or create some of the chemistry that maybe isn't there?
Yeah, you could just be like, hey, you know what? That's really, if you're chatting with them over the water cooler at work and, you don't know that because you don't work together and you can't really tell, you just feel like, maybe we should grab a coffee and discuss that sometime, right? And that's at least the first seed of, I wonder if that's like a coffee or like a coffee, right? And so, and then again, if he's not following up that readily and taking it to the next step, with guys, typically they know pretty quickly if they're attracted to you or you're going to be in the friend zone, right? So you've got to kind of figure that out by his actions and what he does.
And I would say there are women who I initially wasn't necessarily attracted to, but as I got to know them, I just found them intriguing and interesting and great conversation. And, I think anytime a woman showed interest in what I liked, that made me more interested in wanting to continue that conversation. And it's just like, it's like what you find that yourself naturally talking about.
Yeah.
I think that can lead to something.
Well, let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. If you have friend zoned someone, you're like, probably not my type. And now you see that there's this intrigue that this girl's super interested in the things you're interested in. Does that move the meter for you? Or does it just say, I really want to be better friends with you?
It has moved the meter.
Good. See?
To where I have actually said, okay, would you like to go out?
Let's try this.
Yeah.
Let's have a coffee.
With some whiskey.
Exactly.
So this may be, Mom, if you're watching, this may be an inappropriate question. Why? Camilla wants to know, why do men send so many yin-yang pics?
The dick pics are, why? There could be an entire psychological hour on the why behind that. Just know that he's showing you who he is, and it's up to you to believe him. So I don't know if maybe you could fine tune your radar and who you're messaging and accepting. And are there red flags in the profile that this dude might be that guy? I can tell you very, very few of my clients ever receive yin yang pics, right? And so it all comes back to the filtering, reading the profile, watching how the messaging is going. When I see someone who starts to escalate things physically or sexually, it's like, dude, block, game over, out, back to the Atlantic, like you're thrown out of the canoe.
And Nadine wants to know, is chivalry dead?
No.
I don't think so either.
No.
I think it depends on who you meet. And, I think I would like to just do something like what you're doing and just have a bunch of guys together and just have a talk about this, because I definitely feel like chivalry has gone out the door. I think we just haven't had many. I don't know. It just it seems like over the years I don't know if it's like the women's lib thing where, it's like if we go to open the door for some women, they're like, no, I got it. It's like, okay, all right. Where I like to open the door for women. I like to pay for dinner. And what I do like though is when a woman offers to pay, but that shows me that she doesn't expect for me to pay. But the fact that she even offers to do that says to me that this woman is considerate and she doesn't just expect it, which is like huge brownie points in my book.
I'm totally, which a lot of guys, and we've got the anecdotal juice when we're coaching women on a weekly basis. I'm like, always offer to pay or offer to split. It makes you seem like you would be a good partner and that you're thoughtful and you're considerate. And that doesn't mean that chivalry is dead. Even if a guy lets you split the check, I'll tell you what, like we could talk about the whole who pays for dates. I would just tell you this: don't overplay the paying for date things in your mind. Offer to pay, see what happens, and move on.
Good advice. Beth wants to know, she's looking for love after divorce, learning to lean into it again, how to choose someone from the many suitors out there, especially during a pandemic, working from home, having hobbies, and many online dating apps. Do men like strong women that work hard and work too much? If someone is working a lot and is at home and is maybe, someone who's driven, I've gotten this question before as well. How do you, I think it's probably difficult to find that balance of how do you find someone who is compatible. And what I say is you've got to find someone who's maybe as driven as you. Otherwise, I just think that there's going to be too much of an imbalance there.
Yeah, you can find someone like who is super alpha high voltage as well, or you can find someone who's the softer side of you but has their own active life and they don't need to be glued to you 24/7. So there's so many options that are out there, and most guys that I've come across, it's very rare that a guy's like, no, I don't really want to date a woman who's smart or successful. I think most guys are like, that would be amazing, right, if she's going to be a good partner as well. And so I don't think you have to worry about that, but nor do you have to, flash your badge like, hey, I'm really successful either. I think you just want to be chill and you want to be cool about it because you're connecting on a personal level here. This is not a business pitch where you're going in to try to impress someone with your resume either way, right? You want to connect on a personal level.
And do you believe in the whole like male female energy? And if a woman is in, who enjoys doing things that that may be considered more on the masculine side. So Heather is asking, how can I enjoy my hobbies, which tend to be on the masculine side, and not emasculate my partner who may not be as into sports, construction, cars, etc.?
Right. So either if it's really important to you to match on that, then you find someone who's into the same things that you are. I don't necessarily believe you have to have the same common interests with your partner. I think sometimes it's great to have differential interests because then you guys can learn about each other's interests as well. And it just makes life a little bit more fun than having a mirror image of you. I think that, emasculating is a really tough word. And I think sometimes it can be the way, you won't emasculate someone unless his ego is really, really small or his self-esteem is really, really low at the end of the day, in which case may not be a good dating bet. Or if it's something in the way that we as the women are talking to the guys, like, oh my God, like all guys like sports, like, why do you not care about the NFL? Like, how are you a guy, right? And that's a whole different, rough conversation. So you can absolutely do you. The right guy is going to love you just as you are.
What about if you've been in a relationship for a while, you're married, and you find that there's, the passion is kind of gone. You're almost like you're living together as roommates. And when you're trying to stimulate that kind of or even have the conversation, how do you get someone to, I hear this from women saying, my husband just doesn't seem to be interested in having the kinds of conversations that I want to have in order to create more passion and love in the relationship. Do you get questions like that? And what do you say when those kinds of questions come up?
Yeah, I think especially for women, physical chemistry changes as the relationship matures, right? Sometimes security and attachment are the reciprocal of excitement and passion sometimes, right? So it's always about maintaining that balance of having both. And I think an easy way to bring that passion back, there's two things: having the real conversations with each other, right? Talking about it. Like, what do you need? Do you need to feel more emotionally connected in order to feel physically like attracted to me, to want to have sex with me? Okay, great. Then sort that stuff out. Have those conversations. Don't be embarrassed, number one. And then do novel things together, right? And I'm not just talking about new things in bed. That's a whole nother thing. But you can even do things together that are as basic as not going to the same restaurants that you've been to for the last 10 years because they're comfortable, and going to new places, traveling to new places, taking golf lessons together, taking dance lessons together. Like, do new things. Novelty can spark adrenaline. Adrenaline can spark attraction.
I like it. Shannon Murray is asking, are there better dating apps for specific age groups?
I think that most apps cater to people that are 18 to 36 years old, right? That's the wheelhouse of people that they have. So I think if you're a millennial or a Gen Z, you've got, the world at your fingertips. Everybody is, most of the users on the apps are in that age bracket. But then let's say half of the users are 37 to 87 years old, right? So looking at what's really good in your city. And what I would suggest is, you don't have a dating coach per se, but play around with the apps. Don't marry one. Maybe try a 30-day subscription on a big mainstream site. I tend to prefer bigger sites and apps over little niche-y ones because you don't have as big of a denominator. Remember, online dating is the world's largest cocktail party, and all the good people are spread all around, and they're going through revolving doors, going to different apps. So try different things. Maybe try Bumble. See how Bumble works for you. If that doesn't work out for 30 days, try Hinge. If Hinge doesn't work, maybe try Match. Like, you've just got to try different things, and then you can always cycle back because new people are always coming in and new people are always leaving.
In your personal experience, because how long have you been married now for?
Oh my God, it was like a child bride, 22 years.
Wow. And what do you think has kept your relationship on that path of mutual growth and growing closer together?
Well, it's interesting. We started out as best friends. Like, we dated lots of other people, each of us, but we were literally, Harry and Sally, studied together, hung out together all the time. And then when we started dating, right?
Well, were you attracted to him at first, though?
No.
So how did
a totally different genre of people?
So how did he get you out of the friend zone then, Bella?
There might have been some whiskey involved. Let's just
okay.
that. So it might have been one of those things where we're like, oh my God, what was that? But then over a year, we were like, okay, this is weird. We're such good friends. Would this ruin our relationship? Are we really, is this a thing? Could this be a thing? And then it became a thing. And then a couple of years later, we got engaged and got married. And so I think the friendship, number one, has always been the bond between us. Like, we can laugh together about almost everything. We have similar views on so many things, but there's also a core of kindness, right? How do you treat your best friend? You treat your best friend with kindness, right? So there's rules of engagement around conflict in our house, right? There's never name calling. And like, look, we've been through it. There's been ups and downs, 2 decades, right? 2 kids, like it. And how do you navigate those big seismic changes and hard parts of your life? Is you do it without, leaving lots of scars on each other. So it's, how do you argue? We've got a lot of things that we even do with our kids. Like, we just de-escalate arguments. Like, if somebody gets out of hand, it's like, you guys, we're like boxers going back to our corners. Everyone gloves off, go cool off. And I'm not kidding you. When you do that, even in an argument where you don't want to win, right? We screw so many things up because we want to win and we want to be right. Instead, if you want to say, you guys, we're about to get to that point where we're going to say some bad stuff to each other, separate. Within 20 minutes, I promise you, one person, everybody's cooled down. Someone is apologizing to the other person. You just need to take the air out of that room for a minute. Yeah,
that's good advice. Definitely good advice. Well, we're coming up to the top of the hour here, and I know this is. I think we feel like we could go on for hours. But what's great about this is that we're going to be able to continue this conversation, because we're going to be doing our summit at the end of this month, where you're going to be able to share a little more detail about the system that you have with regards to just all-encompassing aspect of how to attract the right person into your life. And it's called the Best Self Summit, and it's going to be at the end of this month. So I'm excited to have you to be a part of that. And just before we go here, you've done a lot of great things in your life, Bela, and you've inspired, I'm sure, hundreds of people through your work. I'd like to ask you the question, what inspires you?
Love inspires me. And, the mission is, the people in my life that I love and love me, inspire me to get up and do it all over every single day. So that it's pretty simple for me.
Very sweet. Yeah. I think, my family inspires me, and love definitely inspires me as well. And it's, I've met your husband, and you guys definitely have an amazing relationship. And I'm curious about what you're going to be talking about at this summit. I think we all have, we could always keep learning. I think the biggest mistake is when we get into a relationship and then just think that, okay, now that we're in it, we don't have to work at it. And my mom was a family therapist, and one of the biggest or best pieces of advice she gave was that, just because you like each other, it's not just about doing things for each other to make each other know that you care and love each other. Yeah. But what is it that you're doing for the relationship? And what are you doing she used the analogy of watering the relationship. So are you making those concerted efforts to have date night, even though you've got crazy lives and everything is going on? I think it's so important to make the effort to keep that flame going in your relationship, and keep that spark going, because it's special when you meet someone. And I think we've all experienced what that's like. But relationships take work, and I think sometimes it's easy for us to give up on them without putting in the work. So I'm excited to be learning more about all this stuff with you, Bela. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. If you guys want, follow Smart Dating Academy on Instagram. We do free tips, so you guys can continue to, love and ask your love questions anytime.
And that's this Thursday, every Thursday at what time?
7 p.m. Central.
Okay.
I'll probably, one of these times when Colin's not busy, I'm going to have him as a guest on my Instagram Live.
Oh, great. So we can talk more about smashing.
And yin-yangs.
Yeah. That's what I get for, growing up Catholic. I get very embarrassed when I talk about this stuff. But anyway, thanks, Bela, for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.
It was awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you. All right, everyone. Wow, man, this is like uncomfortable stuff. I get like I think you could tell I was like a little embarrassed talking about some of this stuff, but I think it's so important to be able to really get this stuff out in the open. And I think the more we talk about this stuff, the more that we're able to just shed some light on this kind of on the topic of love and relationships. I think the better, because I think we grow up with so many taboo messages about sex and dating and relationships, and sometimes I don't think we're educated enough on what it takes to really create and maintain a successful relationship. So I just want to leave you with this, that even if relationships don't work out, even if you feel like you're frustrated with having gone out there and dated and trying to meet the right guy or the right girl, just know that regardless of what other people, how they respond to you, you are you. There's only one you. And there's so many amazing and beautiful qualities about each and every one of you out there. And as we were talking about tonight, you can't settle. You can't, because settling is you're diminishing yourselves, and you are essentially not honoring the amazing things about you that make you you. And if you settle, you're going to be suppressing the things that make you beautiful, the things that make you great. And it's all about finding not just a partner, but about people in your life that support you in you being your best self, and you being, you showing your great qualities. And that's what's been great about what I've been trying to put together with this amazing community over the past year, because we truly do support each other in being our best selves. And it truly has been an awesome journey over the past couple of years with having written my book. And again, my book club started today. So we'd love for you to be a part of this 6 weeks of community and Q&As. We have 3 live Q&As, and 3 lucky winners are going to be getting an autographed signed copy of Agile Artists. Anyone who signs up, I'll be picking 3 random winners. And then I will also be picking 1 random winner where I will be doing a 20-minute one-on-one Zoom call, so we can chat, get to know each other, and who knows, maybe have a love connection. So just want to say thank you for joining me again tonight. We will continue this love connection conversation again with our summit that we have coming up at the end of the month. And again, it's important to just you just be you. And you are the best in the world at something. Own it. Don't dim it. Don't hide who you are just because you think other people out there in the world don't appreciate you for who you are. Because eventually you are going to find someone who absolutely sees you for who you are, and it's the best thing. And as Bella said, the worst thing in the world is to be, when you're 80 years old, to look back and have regrets. So I wish you guys all the best for an amazing week. Tomorrow, 100 Days to Live comes out, so be sure to watch it. Again, this is a grassroots effort here. We really could use your support with renting it, downloading it, and it really helps us out with regards to making splash out there in Hollywood land. So all your support is much appreciated. Take care. Have an amazing week, and I will see you guys very soon.